Hey guys, this is Anthony Morganti. I am MrPhotographer.com. In this video, I'm going to talk about two significant features that have been added to Photoshop. There's a couple reasons why I'm only covering two of the features. First of all, some of the features really don't affect us photographers that much, so we wouldn't really be using them. And secondly, I'm a little late to the party. A lot of people have been doing videos talking about all these new features already. So I want to talk about two that are getting the most buzz as far as us photographers are concerned and kind of give you my own spin and opinion on them. The first one is probably the one getting the most talk, and that is the object selection tool. If you're like me, you might have upgraded your Adobe Photoshop to version 2020, and you went over to where all those people on YouTube are showing it. It's in the selection tool area here, and if you click, it's in there, and you might have went, well, it's not in there. Well, if you made any changes or modifications to your toolbar like I did, when you upgrade to Photoshop 2020, for some reason they don't put that object selection tool in there, and you have to manually go grab it and put it in there. And to do that, what you would do is go up to Edit and all the way down to where it says Toolbar. Then basically the left-hand panel is your toolbar. That's what's in there already. And the right-hand panel are extra tools, things we could add to the toolbar. And what we'll do is scroll down towards the bottom, and you can see it's right there, Object Selection Tool. And we're going to want it in here with the quick selection and the magic wand tool. So we simply just click on this and drag it in there. And we could change its order too. So why don't I put it, last. So it's right there. Now it's in that little cubby. So we'll click Done. Now when we go over here and click, you can see it's there, the object selection tool. So we'll activate that. And the object selection tool has two different selection brushes. One is a lasso, so you could kind of draw around your object with the lasso tool. And the other is a rectangle. And you could use whichever works best for whatever you're working on. And let's, for the sake of argument, say I want to take this seagull, clip him out of here. So what I'll do is I'll use the rectangle tool. And I'll come out here outside the seagull, and I'll just go like this. And I'll put this around him, and I just barely got his toe in there, so that's a good thing. So just like that, we'll let go, and then you'll see that little spinning circle, and there it selected the seagull. It did an okay job. And you may be saying, well, Tony, you have the select subject up here, and that's been in Photoshop for a while. That will do the same thing. Well, yes, you're right. And to use that, we'll get rid of our selection. You would just you could go to any of the selection tools, and then that select subject will appear. So you could be like in the magic wand tool, and select subject will appear. Whatever tool is selected does not affect how select subject works. So you just would click select subject and let Photoshop do its magic, and then it selects what it thinks is the subject in the photo. And it did the exact same thing, although in this case it did select the post as well. And in my previous case, I just selected the bird. So you can do a little bit more refinement with the object selection tool. And where you would really probably use it most is if you have more than one subject in the image. For example, we have these two eagles. If I click select subject, it's going to select the eagles, I'm sure, and it selected some of this foreground area as well. So you could see it selected all the eagle as well. Now let's say I just wanted to select the head of the eagle on the left. Well, then I would use the object selection tool. And I could use the lasso, might be better a choice, but I'll just do it real quick with the rectangle and go around that eagle's head. And you'll see that it just selected that eagle and not this one. So that's why you might prefer to use the object selection tool over the select subject tool, which has been in Photoshop for a while. Now, admittedly, these aren't perfect. They're not going to select your subject perfectly. You could see on this eagle here, if I zoom in and move over, you could see it missed a lot of feathers and so on. So it's a rough selection, and you would have to refine it from there by clicking on select and mask. So it isn't perfect. Neither is the select subject, but it supposedly will get you close, and then you select and mask to go further. So, take it for what it's worth, I guess. And it's been my experience that when Adobe releases a new feature in Photoshop, it kind of works okay at first, but in subsequent releases of Photoshop, they really do refine it, and it works much better. Now, one feature that has been in Photoshop for a while has been ContentAware Fill. And they've refined it and added to it in this version of Photoshop, Photoshop 2020. Now, for this demonstration, let's say I want to get rid of this post over here, and I just want to fill it in with more of the water that's in the background. So to do that, I need to select it. So I'm just going to select it with the rectangular marquee tool. And I'll just go out here. So I have a selection of this post. Now I want to replace it. So I will go up to Edit, and then down to ContentAware Fill. And you'll notice now that this dialog box pops up, and there's a lot of area that's green. There's my selection on the right. What Photoshop has done is it's showing us in green the areas it's going to sample to replace this post. So it's did a pretty good job. It's pretty much not selecting the bird, although it's been selected a little bit in the tail a bit. It's not selecting the post, although you can see a little green edging on here as well. But it's selecting mostly the water, so it actually did a pretty good job in this case. Now, if you want to refine it further, by default, you'll have a brush with a minus sign in it. And you can see we have two brushes here. We could add to the selection or subtract from the selection. So we could use this to further refine this and allow it to only select the pixels we want it to select. In some instances, this might not be good enough, and then you're going to want to use one of the different sampling area options. These are new over here. So we're going to click on rectangular, and what it does, it just kind of picks a rectangular area. Now, where green is, that's everywhere it's going to sample. Now, of course, we don't want it to sample the bird, the post. We don't want it to sample the hill in the background. Well, now by default, when you click rectangular, you're going to have a negative brush. You can see we're on negative, so we could remove from the sample, and let's say all that. Now, this is a lot of work in this case. This isn't a good choice for this image, but then this is how you would do it. Use the bracket keys on your keyboard to make the brush smaller and larger. The left bracket key makes it smaller, right bracket key larger. Then you could come in and like remove it from the bird and so on. But this isn't a great choice either. Then there's custom. With custom, nothing is selected, and it's telling you to use the sampling brush to add to the sample area in order to fill the selected region. So we'll click OK. And now, by default, we're going to have a brush with a plus sign in it. You can see over here. So I could say, I want to replace this post with pixels from right here, like this. So basically, it's going to sample these pixels right where I'm painting, right there. And that's the area I'm going to sample to replace this brush. When I'm happy with that, I'll click OK over here. And what it will do is it will return us back into regular Photoshop. And you can see it's thinking. And there it replaced it. And it's on a new layer. So you could see that it did it pretty good. So I'll deselect this area by hitting Command D. It's because I have a Mac. If you have a PC, you'd hit Control D. Okay, now let's say we want to get rid of this little bit of blue sky over here in the corner. Make sure you're on the original layer. You can't do this on the background layer because most of those pixels are blank, right? So we're going to go down here and we're on this original background layer. And I'm going to select this area. I'm just going to use that marquee tool again and kind of just draw out from there. And just select that. Then we're going to go up to Edit and down to ContentAware Fill. And it's telling us now by default it's on custom where I ended last time, I should say. So it's asking me to custom draw. Again, I could use auto and it's going to use that area right there. I could use rectangular. That actually isn't bad either in this case, or I could use custom. In this case, why don't we just use auto? So I'll use auto and I'll click OK. And you can see it did a fine job. I'll hit Command D to deselect that. So we got rid of all those things. There's the original image and there's the image cleaned up. So those are, to me, the two most significant new features added to Photoshop, that being Photoshop 2020. Again, I'm late to the party. I apologize to that. I'll try to do these videos sooner, then I could cover more of the features. But I mean, there's been at least probably 10 videos that I saw over the past 2 or 3 days since Photoshop 2020 came out with photographers and just Photoshop experts covering every single new feature in Photoshop 2020. So I just wanted to cover these two, show you how to get that object selection tool in your toolbar if it isn't already there, because I didn't really see that covered, and just to give my spin on it and how you might want to go about using it. Thank you, everyone who watches my videos. I really do appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys soon.